All right. So I wanted to welcome everybody to the Women Veterans Alliance. This is our webinar. It usually takes place on Wednesday. It's usually our Wednesday webinar series, but I'm having to travel later this week, so we switched over to Monday. So again, thank you all for being here. I am Melissa Washington. I am the CEO and founder of Women Veterans Alliance, and our primary focus is to connect you, the woman veteran, with each other and resources. And one of the ways we do that is through our webinar series that we have. And if you're not familiar with our organization, feel free to visit our website. And just want to share something. If you don't know, I'm in California, and last week I was invited to fly out to Washington, D.C. for a breakfast with the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, who's there on the left-hand side, with several other women veterans leaders. So it was a great opportunity to be able to represent our women veterans there, and just let you know that that's part of what I do and Women Veterans Alliance does, is we're out there to advocate for you, the woman veteran, and also too to make sure that we're put up in front. As we all know, many times we are unrecognized, and we're continuing to be underserved in the community, and that's something we are looking to continue to change. If you're not connected with us, we're on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You'll be able to find this webinar as well as previous webinars that will be on our YouTube channel. So you can just visit Women Veterans Alliance and find us there on YouTube. Also too, if you're not a member, we do have a membership promo for the rest of this month, which is going to be our last webinar of the month. If you're interested in becoming a Women Veterans Alliance paid member, you can email me and I will share that information with that. This webinar is available at no cost. You don't have to be a paid member, but there are plenty of additional benefits for our paid members. If you haven't heard, we are launching and have launched a new magazine. Women Veterans Magazine California has been launched. It's available in print and in digital. Also too, we are working on launching magazines in other states. Right now, we are working on Texas, Florida, and the DMV area. If you haven't had the opportunity to submit your photo, if you are from one of these states or located, or maybe at one time stationed there, please feel free to submit your photo. You can visit womenveteransmagazine.com. Also too, it does show the deadline of March 18th. We have extended that out a little bit if you're interested in submitting an article, advertising. And I'm also still looking for some women veteran authors that are from or stationed in these states to feature in this publication. So what do we have upcoming? We have another webinar tomorrow with the EEOC, and that's going to be talking about disabilities, veterans, and the EEOC. Feel free to join us. Also kicking off our April webinars. As you see, we've got some great webinars scheduled for April. And if you're interested in signing up for those webinars, you can go to womenveteransalliance.org/webinars, and you can see all of the webinars that we have scheduled and again, coming up. So without further ado, I want to introduce Shaunda Thompson. She's an Army veteran, and she's an author, facilitator, and holistic personal development coach. She specializes in job search and networking strategy, interviewing, career and life transitions, personal branding, and image coaching. She's a connector and is passionate about connecting women to their healing and purpose. And I'm sure she's going to share with you that she's currently a grad student, and I'm going to share with you, being a warrior that she is. She'll share with you, and thank you, Shaunda, for continuing to do this webinar, even though what's going on with you, and I'm sure you want to share with everyone. But again, we are warriors, and we don't let certain things hold us back from what we want to do and to continue to do. So I appreciate you being on today. So I'm going to transition over to your PowerPoint and then let you take it from here.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for having me here today. So I am Army strong, and I'm going to power through this back injury that I have. And I would like all of you, if you have not grabbed like a piece of paper and, scratch paper and something to write with, because we're going to be doing a few exercises as we are going along. So today I am going to talk about, who we are, or to answer the question, who are you? I think Melissa's gonna bring the PowerPoint up in a second. And then we'll talk about why this is such an important topic, because it kind of guides a lot of facets or different areas of our life. Can you guys still hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up?
We can hear you.
Okay, because it gave me my internet connection is unstable. So what I'm gonna do, I'll periodically maybe turn my camera on and off. Let me see if I have it. Okay, so let's get started. So again, we're gonna all answer the question together. Who are you? So the pursuit of authenticity through personal branding. Next slide, please. Okay, so why are we here? So today we're going to talk about why self-knowledge is important. We will then discuss the 5 facets of self. We'll talk about the 9 kingdoms, and then we're going to put it all together. And I promise you it will make sense by the time that we are finished today. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so why do we need to know who we are? So the personal branding process, it really begins with you. So it's important that we're able to clarify or clearly define what is important to us. So how you see yourself or your self-concept. So that has 3 components. So your self-esteem, your self-image, and your ideal self. Now, your self-esteem is how much you value yourself. And you have lots of internal and external factors that influence this. So your family environment, we know social media. Internally, it's mostly how we feel about ourselves, how others treat us, and the type of feedback that we give to ourselves. So that inner critic. Externally, self-esteem can be influenced by feedback we receive from the world. And as I mentioned earlier, social media or other people. Your self-image, this is the mental picture of how you see your physical attributes, your personal traits, and your social role. So the ideal self is what everyone strives to be. So this is why the self-help industry is $1 billion industry. So this self is created from what you have learned from your life experiences, the demands of society, and then what you admire about other people or maybe your role models. Now, remember that your self-concept is not static. So even though it's something that's formed when we're born, it will constantly change through our life as we have different life experiences. It's also important to know who we are because it guides our decision-making process. So this exploration process, what we're going to do today, it's necessary because we need to know how we're going to market ourselves. It's also a guide for what we're offering to the world and how we will apply our skills and our knowledge. It's also important that we know who we are because we want to be meaning-driven and inner-directed. So this can kind of help us decide, what direction do we want to, take our career in? Or if you're an entrepreneur, what direction do you want to take your business? What opportunities do you want to pursue? What type of clients or people do you want to work with? So in the event that you have to do a career pivot, you can, if you already kind of are familiar with, some of this self-knowledge that you have, instead of reinventing the wheel. And lastly, it's important to know who we are because it can kind of help us maintain some balance in our life. And we can learn to take a different mindset and a different approach and see certain things as opportunities. Now, today, I'm going to really ask you to, pause, to think and kind of consider and really assess, some of the questions and kind of where you want to go in your life. Next slide, please. Okay, so as we are in the process of change, old habits or these fears will come up. So I always like to call this the inner critic. So when we are embarking on something new or when we're wanting a change in our life, a few things has to happen cognitively. So we have to create new neurons in our brains. So the first strategy that I want to share with you, just change one self-sabotaging habit at a time. So just take a few minutes to consider where you sabotage yourself. So I'm just going to use myself as an example. So when I check my email first thing in the morning, I try to tell myself that, okay, I'm only going to check it for a few minutes. Those few minutes turn into 30 minutes, and then that 30 minutes turns into an hour. And then after that hour, I haven't even put in a dent in my to-do list, and I haven't been that productive. So one positive habit that I'm developing is not to check my email first thing in the morning. I do have a designated time or times that I check my email, so I set my alarm. So let me ask you, where do you sabotage yourself? You may want to write this down. You don't have to share. And what will you say no to? And what could you do differently? That's strategy number one. The second strategy is to renew your daily routine. So as I said earlier, when you are learning something new, you have to create these new pathways or neurons in your brain. So when you are changing that one self-sabotaging habit, you also want to consider your daily routine and you want to shift things around a little bit. So what do I mean? So maybe try a new flavor of tea or a new brand of coffee. Maybe you want to kind of switch up. Maybe you exercise in the morning. Maybe you want to do that at a different time of the day. Or this is going to sound silly, but I want you to try it and it works. So if you are a dominant right hand and you're, brush your teeth in the morning, just switch it to your left hand. So again, this is going to create these new neurons in our brain because we're relearning we're learning something new. So in addition to renewing your daily routine, I want you to ask yourself, these three questions. What can you stop doing? What can you change up? Or what can you change the order of when you do it? And what new routine or ritual can you start today? It can be even as simple as, maybe switching up your route when you're driving to work. All right, I'm going to give you these three questions again, and then we're going to go on. So think about what you can stop doing, what can you change or change the order of, and what new routine or ritual can you start? Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about the framework for what we're going to be talking about today. If you can go to the next slide, please. So the framework is the parachute approach. So this approach was developed by Richard Boyles. He's a very prominent career development professional. And he's created the parachute approach. Many of you have probably heard or maybe even read the book, What Color Is Your Parachute? But the parachute approach requires that you conduct an inventory of your values, your interests, your skills, and your personality. So this approach will allow you to think what you bring to the world or what unique qualities that you bring and what only you can do. Self-evaluation. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so we're about to get started. Are you guys ready? Do you have your pens ready? Your pencils ready? All right. Okay, so we're going to begin with the self-evaluation. So what I'm going to ask you to do is mentally strip yourself of any past job titles that you have. So when you ask yourself, who am I? You must drop the career answer that comes to mind. Okay. So we're not even dealing with any titles. So you must think instead of, I am a person who, and then we're going to kind of fill in the blanks. So you are a person, you are an individual that will conduct or you do a specific job function, but you are not a job. So in the time that we have, we will do this self-evaluation. We're going to explore the 5 ways of describing who you are. Okay. So those are going to be the 5 facets of who we are. You guys ready? Can I get a thumbs up or yeah? All right. Thank you. I see a thumbs up. All right. Let's go into the 5 facets of who we are. Next slide, please. And then next slide. Okay, so the 5 facets are you and people. So you can describe who you are in terms of the kinds of people you most prefer to work with or help. You can get even more specific on the specific qualities, the age, problems, or issues of this population. The second way that you can describe who you are you in a workplace. So what are the working conditions? Do you want to work for a small or large company? Or even if you're an entrepreneur, do you want to have, a private owned company, publicly traded company? You and skills. What can you do? And what are your favorite functional and transferable skills? So these are key to you being at the top of your game and the most effective. You and the knowledge you have. So this is what you already know and what your favorite areas of interest or your knowledge are, and you and your purpose in life. And this is what we're all striving for. So your goals or your sense of mission for your life. So you can describe the goals or mission you want and where you decide to work. So we're going to actually look at these individually in a little more depth. So let's start with people, you and people. Next slide, please. All right. So we all know that people can either give us energy or they can also drain our energy. So when you start to think about the type of people that you most prefer to work with, kind of ask yourself some questions. So from your previous experience, who has supported you professionally? Who has pitched in to help professionally? And what are the characteristics of these people? So these are either coworkers or they could be mentors. So what are the qualities of these people? I will use the Holland Code from Dr. Holland. So this is a theory, and I'm going to get into a little bit more about that. So Dr. Holland had a theory that based on what type of environment that you work in, or each environment has, he calls it a people environment. So the goal is if we are aligned in the environment that has people that we have a preference in working with, and we're doing the type of work that we enjoy, we will have career success. So there are 6 people environments that Dr. Holland has created, and we will, I'm going to describe each one of those, and then we're going to talk about kind of each one in depth. And then we will come up with your 3-letter Holland Code, okay? Now, there's 2 ways that you can get your Holland Code. So there is a longer electronic version that you can take to get your 3-letter Holland Code, or we can do the short exercise that we will do in a few minutes that will get you, it has probably, I would say about a 98% accuracy for your Holland Code. So if you don't have a piece of paper and a pencil, make sure you get this, get the paper and pencil. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Holland Code, and then we're going to go into the exercise. Now, according to Holland's theory, again, there are 6 people environments. Now, according to the theory, every one of us could become skilled in all 6 if we had enough time. And wouldn't that be nice to have unlimited time and energy? But in the limited time that we have from the time that we are a child to adulthood, we tend to develop preferences and survival skills in just 3 of the environments. So that's why your Holland Code is going to have 3 letters. And this is determined by who we grew up with, who we admired, and what time we gave to practicing certain expertise in these different environments. Now, I'm going to, next slide, describe each of these in detail, but we're going to pretend that we are at a party, okay? Now, at this party, there are different types of people, and I'm going to describe each group of people. And after I describe each group of people at the party, I will then have some questions for you. All right. So the realistic people environment, which is designated by the R, people who prefer activities people who prefer activities involving very ordered, systematic, using their hands, using machines, people who like nature, plants, people who are athletic, that would be described by the realistic people environment. We're then going to move to the right, the investigative people environment. So this is filled with people who prefer using observation. They're very systematic, creative investigation of physical, biological, or cultural phenomena. The investigative people environment, people are very curious and like to investigate or analyze things, people, data, or ideas. The artistic people environment, we're going to move to the A. People who are very creative, artistic, imaginative, and innovative, and really don't like time clocks. The social people environment are filled with people who prefer activities where they can teach, serve others, or help. The enterprising people environment are filled with people who like to start projects or organizations. They're very good at persuasive speaking. They like to influence and lead people. And lastly, the conventional people environment. So people who like detailed, organized work and like to complete tasks or projects. So we are at a party and are groups of people. So to which group of people would you most enjoy with for the longest time? So I want you to record your answer. Just put the letter. So would it be realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, or conventional? So write that first letter. Which group would you instinctively be drawn to? All right. After 15 minutes, everyone in that corner that you initially were drawn to, they leave for another party across town, but you're still there. So of the groups that still remain, which group would you be drawn to the most? So your original group is gone. You have to find a new group of people. So what's the second group of people you would be drawn to the most? Write that letter down. All right, after 15 minutes, this group leaves too for another party, but you're still there. So of the groups that still remain, which group would you most enjoy being with for the rest of the time that you're at the party? All right, does everyone have their 3 letters? And would anyone like to share? Any volunteers? Okay, I see RIA, so realistic, investigative, artistic. All right, I see social, artistic, investigative, artistic, investigative. What was that? Realistic, I think. All right, I see conventional, investigative. Okay. All right, I see social, enterprising, and real IRS, investigative, realistic, and social. Okay. Excellent. So for, I guess I can look and see who the names are. So for the people that had like realistic, investigative, or realistic and social, or realistic and artistic, is there some type of tension that you have between maybe creativity and maybe doing routine things? Does that sound accurate? Is there a little tension in there in making that decision? Can you write that in the chat for me? No, okay. What about someone else? Karen, can you share what you do? Occasionally, okay. Do you mind? Okay, you work at the library. Okay, okay, I can see that. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let's move to the work environment. Oh, a lot of your staff. Okay, great. So you have the best of both worlds. Okay, you work in IT. Makes sense. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about the work environment. So again, this is another way that we can describe who we are. So state the physical working environment or the conditions and surroundings that will make you happiest. And also it will enable you to do your most effective work. So how can we do this? So one way you can create a vision board of possibilities and ideas. This could also kind of open your mind to new opportunities. But the purpose is to help you think visually about your workplace or your surroundings. So you could, get a piece of paper, or you could do a poster board. You can do magazines and cut out pictures that kind of fit your ideal environment. Or you can use a Word doc. You can go on Pinterest and you can copy and paste pictures from different websites. And once you do that, just analyze your results. So do you see a pattern of certain kinds of images? So are they, formal environments? Is the environment more casual? And are there certain elements present, such as, is it a medical setting? Is it a more tech setting? And kind of ask yourself this question. So I believe my effectiveness would be at an absolute maximum if I could work under these conditions. I'm going to repeat that question. Ask yourself, I believe my effectiveness would be at an absolute maximum if I could work under these conditions. So name your top 3. So distasteful working conditions, that's where from your past or maybe your current experience, where your effectiveness at work is decreased when you have to work under those types of conditions. So again, you can name your top 3. So when are you least effective? So what type of conditions are present in the workplace to where you're least effective? So these are called distasteful working conditions. Does that answer your question? I think someone had put, could I explain? Did that answer your question? Yes? Okay, great. Okay, let's move on to transferable skills. So another way that we can kind of describe who we are is by discovering what our favorite functional skills and personal traits are. So these can be transferred to any field or of interest. And these are things that we're probably naturally good at, or you have that natural gift, or there are skills, that you've kind of honed and sharpened. So hone in on which skills and traits you love to use. So when we're doing this, we kind of want to use verbs. So like analyze, draw, coach. Now skills are simply something that you're good at. When we put the time, effort, and energy, into them, they will become talents. And then they can be divided into categories such as soft and hard skills. So just to remember that the hard skills kind of refer to the what, and then the soft skills refer more to the style in which you do something or the how. So your written communication, oral communication, collaboration, how you kind of navigate in changing environments, leadership. So our hard and soft skills that you perform in one setting, they can be useful in another setting. So these are the transferable skills. And sometimes it isn't just the specific skill that is transferable, but rather the thinking that is required to do that skill. So think about, your skills. So they could either be people skills, skills with information, or skills with things. So I'm going to give you a moment to kind of jot down some of those things. Next slide, please. So if you're kind of stuck on, what your skills are, there's an exercise that you could use. It's called the life story. So what you're going to do, you are going to answer these prompts. So the first prompt is you're going to write what the goal was. Then you're going to follow that with what were the obstacles that you overcame, or obstacles, what you did step by step. You're going to give a description of the result. And then if you can, if there's any measure or quantities, you can include that, but it's not really necessary. So when you do in your skills, and that these stories will kind of show So when I did it, some of my stories show that I was kind of good at analyzing, being innovative, and coaching. So again, when you are kind of writing your life story and you're answering these prompts, you should start to see a pattern in your skills. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Shonda, just let you know you're breaking up a little bit. Hey, Shonda, we can't hear you. So if you just want to log out and log back in.
I am so sorry. My internet seems to.
We could hear you now.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's move to knowledge, interest, and subjects. Okay, so think about the subjects or the fields that you kind of most enjoy working in. Also, just kind of ask yourself what you already know a lot about, what you enjoy talking about, and or what would you like to learn? Next slide, please. So we always kind of want to stay really ideally with the first option. So what subjects or what interest or fields or actually industries do you have, high enthusiasm as well as high expertise in? Or which areas do you have that high enthusiasm and little expertise? So this presents an opportunity to learn more, as well as, maybe get a certification or go, back to school. So you kind of want to stay with the top two. So where you kind of have that low enthusiasm, but high expertise, or low enthusiasm and low expertise, those may be areas that may be, draining you. So you may, kind of want to rethink these. Also think about, what are hobbies, as well as places you like to spend your time. And I always like to ask people, because sometimes people get stuck on this. So I always pose the question, if you were stuck on a desert island with one person who had the capacity to speak on only a few subjects, what would you want those subjects to be? You can also, get answers to this by, what magazines or blogs do you love to read? Or, what internet sites do you naturally gravitate to? So kind of answering these questions will really point to what your interests are. All right, next slide. Okay, so purpose. So again, this is what we all strive for. We want to walk and live in our purpose. Purpose is divided into what is titled or called the 9. And so with purpose, it's important to have clarity about the broad outcomes of our lives. So we work towards what kind of print do we want to leave the 9 kingdoms or the 9 purposes. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. All right. So the first purpose, the mind. Ask yourself when your time here on earth is finished, do you want there to be more knowledge, truth, or clarity in the world because you were here? So if the answer is yes, think about that a little bit more and maybe write, a few more sentences about that. Or your purpose would be, to affect the mind. Next slide, please. Next purpose, the body. Do you want there to be more wholeness, fitness, or health in the world? More feeding of the hungry and clothing of the poor because you were here? If that resonates with you, just write a little bit more about that. And your focus should be on, things, such as fitness, health, wholeness in the world, being more of a servant leader. Next slide, please. The eyes and other senses. Do you want there to be more beauty in the world because you were here? Again, if so, write a little bit more. Take a little bit of time and write a little bit more about that. Next slide. The heart. Do you want there to be more love and compassion in the world because you were here? Next slide. The will or conscience. Do you want there to be more morality? I can't even talk today. Justice, righteousness, or honesty in the world because you were here? Take a minute and think about that. If this resonates with you, I encourage you to write a little bit more about that and focus a little bit more on this purpose. Next slide, please. The spirit. Do you want there to be more spirituality in the world, more faith, compassion, forgiveness, love for a higher power, and the human family in all its diversity because you were here? So if so, what ages, people, or what parts of human life? Next purpose, please. Entertainment. Do you want there to be more laughter in the world and joy because you were here? Next purpose, possessions. Do you want there to be a better stewardship of what we possess as a community, as individuals, as a nation because you were here? The earth. Do you want there to be a better protection for the planet, more exploration of the world or the universe? So again, if this resonates with you, I encourage you to just write a little bit more on that. And you know that the earth is your purpose. Next slide. So there are no wrong or right purposes. So it's really what you're drawn to and kind of what resonates with you. So I'm just going to share, what my purpose and kind of what some of my my skills and some of my values are. So next slide. So who am I? I am a dysfunction disruptor. I intervene in individuals' lives by connecting them to clarity and their purpose. My mission in life is to help others through my teachings. I want there to be more self-knowledge, more self-compassion, more forgiveness of self and those that I have worked with, because I have taught them through my coaching, writing, and facilitation of workshops. So again, that's just mine. There's no right or wrong way to, really write this, or again, there's no right or wrong purpose. Next slide, please. All right, any questions? If you do have any questions, I just want to let you know that I have my contact information there. So I would love to connect with any one of you guys on LinkedIn. But are there any questions? Everyone's so quiet.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there any way we can get the slides sent to us? Just because I'm a little bit kind of slow.
That's fine. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions? It was that bad? You don't have any questions? All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I am hosting another workshop. So it's a 4-part workshop. It's free. So it's a spring clean your life workshop. So there's a few things that we're going to do. So first, we will identify the key areas in your life that you want to spring clean. Then we're going to explore what you want professionally and personally. Then we're going to identify and explore what's draining you. Then we're going to create new daily success habits so you can be supported in your new habits and your goals. And then we're going to create a 3-month vision board for you. So this is beginning on April the 10th. So that's a Sunday. So the April the 10th, the 24th, May 1st and 15th. So they're all on Sundays from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will meet via Zoom. So if you're interested, you can just RSVP just spring. So make that your subject in the email. That's all you just put. And then you can just send that to my email if that's something you're interested in. And I hope you guys connect with me on LinkedIn. Any questions? Comments, feedback, who-ahs? You're welcome, Dixie. And that concludes. You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I was trying to get unmuted. I am not good at this, but I thought it was very, very interesting. And I was going to ask, and someone spoke up earlier before me, just said if we could get a copy of the slides. I was writing feverishly, but some of my shorthand, I probably can't read it myself. But that would be great if we could get a hard copy. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. And although I am retired from the corporate sector and military, I do a lot of volunteer work, and these points can be used because there's still work.
Yes.
And
yes.
So I appreciate it, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank you so much.
And thank you for your service, and thank you for continuing to work and volunteer.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Sherry.
All right, Shonda. Well, thank you for an excellent presentation. And yes, I will get this uploaded to YouTube, and then the link will go out as well as the presentation. And feel free to connect with Shonda on LinkedIn. Also, you have her email address, and join her Spring Clean for Your Life, which is coming up, her first one on April 10th.
April 10th. Yep. And again, it's a free 4-part. The only investment is your time and the work that you're going to do. It's I use a strengths-based coaching model. So it's just going to take, some of your time and effort. You're worth 1 hour.
Absolutely. Very good. Called self-care. We all need it.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you again. And thank you all for joining, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.